Hi guys, my name is Erin Kate, and welcome to my channel. This is Mr. Moose. He's having a rough day, so I thought I'd give him a little screen time. I am a UX, UI, and product designer based out of the United States, and I am here to give you guys a review on the bootcamp I took. I'm gonna put Moose on the ground because he's a little bit thrown off by this light. All right, so this is gonna be like a bootcamp review under 5 minutes. I've watched a lot of bootcamp reviews and it gets really lengthy. It kind of takes you into the bootcamp itself, and I'd love to do that for you guys, but I did my bootcamp quite a few years ago, and I would rather just give you my overarching experience of the bootcamp that I took instead of trying to get into the nitty-gritty. I decided to take the Career Foundry UX certification bootcamp and then a minor in UI. What that is like a secondary study. I think some of the other options were UX copywriting and designing for speaking. UX, if that makes sense. I'm forgetting the name of it right now. I should probably know because I'm a designer, but I don't design for that. So anyhow, I decided to go with Career Foundry's bootcamp, and there's a few reasons that I chose Career Foundry. First and foremost, price. Basically, back when I was looking at a bootcamp, there was just a handful that really stuck out. General Assembly, Career Foundry, and then there's so many new ones now. So when I was looking, the main ones were General Assembly, Career Foundry, Flatiron, and Springboard. So the reason I went with Career Foundry is because what I really probably would have preferred was General Assembly, but Career Foundry cut that price in half. So General Assembly, it was like $15,000. Career Foundry was $7,500. For me and the budget that I was working with, I thought that that was a pretty good middle ground. I think Springboard was very similar to Career Foundry at the time. This was a few years ago, and then Flatiron was a little bit higher. So I went with something that was under that 10 grand mark. And the way that I justify that in my head was, okay, if I go and take this boot camp and then I get out of here and I go get a 60, 70 grand a year job, I've completely made my money back in the first year. It's a lot less money than a college degree, which I do not have, but maybe I shouldn't brag about that. Career Foundry, it was a price point thing, and then to be very frank, what I really liked about Career Foundry was the job guarantee. Essentially, this is how it works. It lasts 8 months working at part-time, all right? So it's an 8-month course if you do part-time hours, and then once that 8-month mark is complete, so say you went January to August, you have an additional 6 months where you're applying for jobs and you're working to get a job, and if you read the fine print and you follow all of their advice about how to go about getting a job, and you don't get one in that 6-month period, you get your money back. That for me was huge because I was like, okay, they really mean business. If I'm gonna go and invest 7 grand into this boot camp and at the end of the day, I don't get a job, I'm gonna have that money back in my pocket and I'm gonna have some information that's useful. For me, it was the big selling point. Money, I'm not gonna lie, and it was the job back guarantee. Additionally, yes, I did research Career Foundry beyond just my bank account. When I was researching Career Foundry and these other boot camps, I would go on LinkedIn and I would type in Career Foundry and look for people that had that in their LinkedIn profile and their LinkedIn resume. Then I would see what kind of jobs they were currently working and if they had UX careers. And also I would look at kind of how long it took them. So if they completed a boot camp in 2017 and then in 2018 they'd already landed their first job, I would think to myself, check, okay, so it looks like, Career Foundry grads are getting hired pretty quickly and there's a pretty quick turnaround. At the time, that was something that I leaned into as well, kind of looking at tried and true alumni and seeing what their career journeys had looked like since taking their Career Foundry boot camps. I went with that. Overall, my experience with Career Foundry was very, very positive. And what I liked about Career Foundry is that it felt very live time. So what I mean by that is that when I would turn in my homework, I had a mentor that would review my homework, give me feedback on my homework in a very timely fashion. So in a 24-hour period, then I could move on to the next module. I didn't feel like I was just interacting with kind of a dead school, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you're on a Udemy course, you're doing the work and stuff, but then it can take the moderator however long to get back to you on a question or a comment. Career Foundry was very good about having their mentors be very Johnny on the spot. So they were really good at answering questions. My mentor in particular was awesome. She was really helpful. She gave me great feedback. I really liked that aspect of Career Foundry. That was another reason that I chose Career Foundry, was because of the really positive reviews I had seen about mentors. I really wanted a real life person on the other end coaching me along. I knew that I was going to learn best in that kind of a structured environment, and I knew that I needed kind of that accountability partner. Career Foundry definitely provided that for me. As I moved through Career Foundry's course, I had a couple more mentors added to my toolkit. One of those mentors was a UX designer at Facebook at the time, and I just thought that was really cool because it's okay, you're hiring legitimate people that have legitimate careers. He was able to give me amazing advice about a handful of things that really really were career changing for me. As you come towards the end of your UX design studies, you're then shifted into kind of this job application, resume creation process. They provide for you career coaches. Mine happened to also be a professional resume writer. She was super, super helpful in helping me craft my story. For instance, I struggled to kind of like see my value because I freelanced for a few years. I struggled to see myself as valuable because I hadn't had that traditional job and I didn't have a traditional degree. But she was like, no sis, like we're gonna, change this up. We're gonna change the way that you view that. We're gonna change the story that you tell. She really helped me with that personal branding element that I really think is what helped me land a job very fast. As I said earlier, Career Foundry's UX Bootcamp, it's an 8-month bootcamp working at part-time. When I enrolled myself in this bootcamp, I was in a desperate place. I was dead set and determined that I was going to land a high-paying job. I was feeling just very low, like my self-esteem was low. I had tried so many different things. I had a very entrepreneurial swing to my job history. I'd been a freelancer, I hated vetting clients. I was just kind of in this place where I was like, I just need to put all of my energy into one thing, and I believe that one thing, it's gonna move the needle a lot. I treated my Career Foundry bootcamp like a full-time job. It did not take me the 8 months. Within 3.5 months, I had completed my UX portion of the bootcamp. I'll call that like the major. And then after that would have been my minor, which was in UI. That at the speed I was working would have taken me about 1.5 months, but I actually landed my first traditional UX design job with a design agency before I ever completed the UI course. I personally had a really great experience with Career Foundry because one of the big things I enjoyed was being able to work at my own pace. For me, that meant hyper speed, eat up those modules and go full time at my course. They didn't put a limit on me, and that helped me propel my career, keep my momentum going. And then I really loved the touch points and the advice I was getting along the way from actual designers that were my mentors. Let's talk pros and cons. I'm gonna talk like the highlights of the course, and then I'm gonna talk a couple things that I didn't like so much about the course. And this is within the course, this doesn't have to do with money. The pros for me were first and foremost my mentors. I loved my mentors. I felt like they were really there for me. They really gave me action-based advice. They gave me really good advice. They were very responsive, and I just really, really appreciated the quick turnaround of, grading assignments and that kind of stuff. I also really enjoyed the assignment portion. I feel like the assignments and the tasks that we were given within the course were very helpful. I think that they were applicable and really did come into play later on when I was working for organizations. The skills I learned in Career Foundry were very helpful. Third, on that note, I'm kind of riffing off of their curriculum. Yes, it's a very text-heavy curriculum, but I didn't find it to be overwhelming. I'm a pretty fast reader. I feel like maybe that's part of it, but also I didn't find it to be overwhelming because they broke it up with video. That's always really nice. I will say as well, the Career Foundry course will really, really stress design thinking. That differs from other courses. For instance, a friend of mine did the Dribble product design course, and that was very UI, Figma heavy. Career Foundry's UX course will really stress that design thinking process, that user-centric design thinking mentality, and I really think that this is something that can get overlooked with Udemy courses, Figma heavy boot camps and such. You really need to know how to think like a designer, storytell like a designer, and problem solve like a designer to impress hiring managers and seem mature. The Career Foundry course had a lot of good user research information within its curriculum. That's something as well that can get overlooked is the user research portion. So I really like that as well. So we have mentors, we have a pretty solid curriculum, and then the job application coaching part, which is like a big sell. It's something I talked about earlier in the video about how that was job guarantee was a big thing for me. Well, with that job guarantee comes this job application portion where you have a career coach, you have assistants writing your resume, you have assistants building your portfolio. It's just a really supportive environment, and I really, really like that. I think that that is something that Career Foundry is doing very, very well, is that job application process support. I actually found the job application process fun, so good job, Career Foundry. You really drove it home. Now, moving on to the cons. I do have a handful of cons. I did my boot camp, it was a few years ago. I think it was like right when COVID was starting. I remember clicking on some links within my text, and it would take me to blog articles and stuff and I pay attention to these kinds of things, that were pretty consistently from 2017. So I kind of got this energy of like, this information could be a little stagnant. I mean, that's 3 years that have passed. It was old links from blog posts or, articles that were published in 2017. Even though my mentoring and stuff was very like live time and felt very fresh, these articles I was being linked to, though relevant, were they as relevant as they could have been? Because it's design advice from 2017 for 2020. I would really hope that that has all been updated by now since it is 2023, but that is something that I noticed that I think they could have done better. On that note, do you think that some people will find it a bit text heavy? If you get overwhelmed easily by a lot of text, heads up. Career Foundry was at the time pretty text heavy. This was a big thing too. Throughout Career Foundry, they're teaching you like, use Sketch, use Mural, use Balsamic. Here's this discount code, here's this discount code. Career Foundry students get a discount code. I did not like that. I'm still spending money on these products and I didn't feel like I was getting much out of them. So I'm paying for Balsamic and I'm gonna go do one project with it for this homework task. I'm not actually using Balsamic very much after that. So now you have all these subscriptions you have to keep track of. I hate canceling subscriptions. I just found that to be a very messy approach. God bless my mentor from Facebook, because once I got to the portion of the course where I started meeting with him regularly, he told me immediately, he said, listen, Erin, you do not need to be using Sketch or Adobe XD. You need to use Figma. This is an issue. Up until that point, I had not been told about Figma. The fact that Career Foundry had not introduced me to Figma, and I was like 3/4 of the way through my UX design course at that point, is a big problem. I think that they had something going on with Sketch. They really pushed Sketch, and I just feel like that was doing a disservice to designers. The only caveat to that is that Career Foundry is based out of Berlin, Germany, and maybe people in Europe and other countries at the time were still using primarily Sketch. That's what I kind of thought in their defense, in Career Foundry's defense. But at the end of the day, I think Figma absolutely should have been introduced in that course. That was a few years ago. I can only hope, like fingers crossed, that they have Figma as their primary tool within their course right now. And if they don't, that's something you're gonna wanna reach out and find out about, because it's very important that you're learning the right tool. Nowadays, in the United States, pretty sure across the globe, Figma is going to be the tool you need to master. Take Figma as your tool and ignore when they're trying to point you in other directions. Use FigJam for whiteboarding, and don't worry about all of these different tools. If you were to come across a job and in the description it said, must have Miro and must have Zeppelin and all these different things, you can basically go and learn those in a weekend, but there's no need to go pay for all these different programs while you're already paying for this boot camp. And that would be my summary of pros and cons. Regrets and things I would do differently. I don't really have any regrets from my time at Career Foundry. I feel like it was very beneficial for my design thinking mindset. That's something that I've really leaned on many, many times throughout my career. So I don't really have any regrets. I think if I hadn't been told by my mentor to learn Figma when I was primarily using Sketch and Adobe XD, I would have regretted that. And if I had had a different mentor, I might not have been told that. I overall feel very grateful for my time at Career Foundry. I do feel like it was worth it, because before I even finished the UI portion of the Career Foundry Bootcamp, I landed my first job that was $70,000 job. I went from very sad looking bank account to a 70 grand annual salary in a matter of 3.5 months. That is something I cannot regret. Things that I might have done differently. I was very interested in General Assembly's course, and what I really liked about General Assembly's course was that I think from my understanding, at the end, they pair you with a real life company. So I watched another YouTube on here and she was paired with like Levi's. So she was able to put Levi's on her resume. And when I say they pair you with it for like a little mini internship to help with a feature or something like that, but then you can go put them on your resume. That was something that I was very drawn to about General Assembly, is that they gave you this real life experience. But at the end of the day, that job guarantee for me was enough for me to go with Career Foundry and also not spend all the money on General Assembly. I don't think I would have done anything differently, except for perhaps focused a bit more on Figma. It would have been beneficial for me to have mastered that tool a little bit more while I was in my boot camp. And overall, I would say that Career Foundry is a very solid choice. That is my review of the Career Foundry Bootcamp, but you ultimately need to pick what's best for you, what's best for your budget, what's best for your goals. If you do decide to choose Career Foundry, click the little link down in my description and you will receive a discount. That's nice. I will basically just sum this video up and say that I hope that it helped you guys, and I hope it helped you all make some bootcampy decisions. Reach out to people on LinkedIn that attended those boot camps, ask them about their personal experience, and you'll ultimately come to the best decision for you. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I love making these videos for you guys. I want to help people that are looking to transition into the career field of UX design, become UX designers. Drop any comments and questions below in the comments section, and I will do my best to answer them and make relevant videos so that you guys can feel further supported and motivated to do this thing. Talk to you later.